You're listening to the third series of Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we all climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. Depths of love. Look into the abyss. Love looks back. Eyes of warmth amongst the black. You have been read words many times before, devotions of love and praise, and probably more. You may have heard words spoken on knees as if in prayer, and felt love's divine light and maybe back to despair. And when it left, you may have cried, crawled to a hole, felt your soul die. Now you have me and I have you. The tears form salt piles as we turn to red from blue.
What lies behind these rhymes, Andrew?
This is the start of a new relationship. It talks about coming from a lack of a relationship or a bad relationship and starting a new relationship and trying to overcome those feelings that may reside still.
Which is probably why it was placed in the section called The Ascent, the section of your new book, From the Mountain to the Waterfall of Love and Relationships, because it's the ascent of a new relationship. Yet, in this poem, you talk about looking into the abyss and having a feeling of your soul dying. Can you tell me, how do you pick up yourself from the lows of failed relationship to continue with optimism towards a new one?
So you're right, it's from the ascent. So it is the start. It's the start of a relationship. It is very difficult to pick yourself up after a relationship ends. And no matter how that relationship ends, amicably, unamicably, in big arguments or...
It dies out.
Yes, it just whimpers out into nothing. It's very tough to start again. And I'm no expert. They do say don't go on the rebound. Don't go from one relationship to another. I am a firm believer that you really should take time between relationships. But I'm not an expert. I can't say that that's 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 2 years. But definitely you shouldn't go from one to another. You have to deal with how and why the last relationship ended. You have to look at your own part in that relationship, and you have to correct those things before you set out into another relationship. It would be like trying to climb the same mountain after you'd failed once before, but not like realizing why you failed before and trying to climb it again. You would end up not being able to finish that hike.
I have actually done that. I've been to the same mountain where I haven't been able to reach the top because of a snow blizzard and because of my level of fitness. So half of the group that I was with finished that hike, and the rest of us just went to the mountain hut. And it took another year to go back to the same mountain where we reached the peak in sunshine and beautiful weather, and it was a great accomplishment for those of us who didn't manage to do it the previous time. So if you compare this to a relationship, you're saying that people should give themselves time to try again.
Yeah. Look, I know it's difficult. Some people do quit after a relationship, and they don't ever take up another relationship. And I'm no love guru, I'm no relationship expert, no counselor. It's what's right for that person. But for me, it wasn't an option to not try again. And not because I thought that the other people in the previous relationships where it didn't work out were all at fault, because I take my own share of the fault for those relationships breaking down. But I had to look at myself. Otherwise, I could have ended up in the same position, essentially.
Yes, this sometimes happens in real life. People feel that they're doing the same mistake over and over again. So you are almost advocating self-exploration, counseling, looking at your own behavior before you move on to another relationship.
I've been open about counselling. In previous podcasts, you and I have talked about counselling. You and I both been to counselling. After my long-term marriage ended, I sought out a counsellor because I had 20 plus years of relationship issues to process. And I thought that was only fair that I wasn't taking that baggage into yet another relationship. So I went, and it was very difficult. And I wrote some poems actually at that time. If anybody's been to counselling, you'll know that you're sent away to think about things. And I used to go and think about things, and then I'd process that into a poem, and I'd take that poem back to the session, and I'd read the poem out, which really summarised the week that I had. And quite often they were sad poems about being on my own and loneliness. But I feel that you owe it to the next person, and you owe it to yourself to not just blindly go from one relationship to another.
How does poetry help you become a better human and a better lover?
You need to process things. I can't, you know me, I'm an advocate that everybody can write poetry. I don't believe that this is, whether the content is different or the same, anybody can write. It doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to follow form or anything like that. It is just emotion. You're just channeling emotion. And there's nowhere that you'll feel emotion more in life than you will in relationships, and not just relationships where you're a lover with somebody, but also family relationships and friendships. These are all places where emotions run all over the place, from high to low and low to high. And, as we all go on our different paths in life, poetry helped me. I advocate it would help other people as well. But I know people struggle to open up, and it's not easy to speak out sometimes and say, I've got a problem. It's hard to find someone you can trust. Some people find counselling, or they think they're going to some kind of psychologist that's going to open their brain up. And counselling is really not like that at all. You are asked to provide the answers. It makes you look inside for the answers yourself. So I don't know. I think you need to move on in life. If you need to move on in life, or you're going to move on in life, you have to process this stuff. It's no good taking all these bags from previous tragedies and miseries and just dumping them into somebody else's life. Because if you've not processed and they've not processed, you won't have a very good relationship. It will be very fractious.
Now that we know what lies behind these rhymes, would you like to read the poem again for our listeners?
Depths of love. Look into the abyss. Love looks back. Eyes of warmth amongst the black. You may have been read words many times before, devotions of love and praise, and probably more. You may have heard words spoken on knees as if in prayer, and felt love's divine light, and maybe back to despair. And when it left, you may have cried, crawled to a hole, felt your soul die. Now you have me, and I have you. The tears form salt piles as we turn to red from blue.
You've been listening to Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we'll climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. You can find all poems from this series in my book, From the Mountains to the Waterfall of Love and Relationships, which is available to buy at Amazon and Waterstones, where you can also find my first book, After the Applause.
Thank you for joining us on this poetic journey. And if you want to come on our real mountain hikes, have a look at our website hikingthebalkans.com and drop us an email at welcome@hikingthebalkans.com.